Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Call of Duty Black Ops 3, a game they were so confident in that they didn't even put Call of Duty on the title screen. They just threw Black Ops 3 up there. Like, you know what it is. It's the third one. You know what you're in for. And that's kind of my sentiment as well. If you haven't seen already stuff about my Black Ops and Black Ops 2 reviews, I would recommend those. Just for a bit more of a background to some of these. But I also would accept if you just happen to know about those games. Anyways, it's not like super important that you do, but I just won't be going over as much detail because some of the general basic gameplay stuff has kind of already been covered. So you can hear more about those there. Also, keep in mind, this actually is the Black Ops 3 Zombie Chronicles version of the game that I got. So it's for Xbox One. I am aware that there is an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 version that you really can't get anymore unless it's like physical, that actually only have the online stuff and none of the other parts, whatever. They don't have the single player stuff. There also, you can get just the regular Xbox One version of this for backwards compatibility and play that, but the only way you can actually buy it digitally was I had to get, for the cheap one, the cheapest I could get it was $60 for this edition with some extra zombie maps and stuff on there. So I am reviewing specifically that edition, I guess, but it's not like, only some of the stuff is really going to apply specifically to that part of it, so it's not really, it's mostly about the base game, really. Just so you're aware of that. That's what I had to do technically. And there's also a written review if you'd like to check that out. But I think that's all I have for preface, other than to say that for the footage, I'm probably just going to show the campaign, since it is a bit longer, more drawn out. So for the campaign, I probably won't bother trying to show you bits of the campaign and the online and the zombies and everything, because you get some of the idea. You can look up more stuff online. By this point, you get the gist. The campaign is where stuff is really going to be probably the most noticeably different, so that's where we're gonna talk about, and that's also, I guess, that's kind of where we'll start. So the campaign takes place in 2065 during a new Cold War brought on by the actions of Black Ops 2. That Cold War thing you were trying to stop, you didn't really stop that. It happened anyway. So yeah, that's going on. But also, it's the thing where I'm going to be totally upfront here and say I don't even understand half of the political bullshit that's going on of what group is with who and what they're doing. People who play for the story will understand this stuff probably a lot better than I could explain to you. But essentially, you're still working for a government agency of some sort. You're still a Black Ops team doing operations for them. And you're in this future here where there's lots of tech. That has become a more predominant thing here. Particularly there'll be parts where you're fighting against full-on like robots, and you've got lots of gadgets, lots of hacking computers, lots of doing that kind of stuff. It's very sci-fi, generic sci-fi kind of stuff you would see, futuristic sci-fi stuff. So that's what we're looking at here. That's what you have to look forward to. And you're on these missions, and early on here, one of your missions goes. It ends poorly, basically, and you end up getting totally ripped to shreds by a robot. But you are actually saved, so you don't die, and instead they do this procedure to save you, to turn you into like a cybernetic being, basically. They will say this something called a DNI, a digital neural interface, something like that. Basically, it's a brain chip kind of thing that's put into you, and you got robot parts and stuff. And this is where you're going to see the game will introduce you to all of the cool stuff you can do now that you're like a cybernetic person. You can do things like you have these like thrusters, so you can do, instead of doing a dive when you run and hit crouch, you'll do this power slide to boost you forward. You can run along walls for a limited amount of time, and you can also do a little bit of a hover in the air, like an extra bit of your jump. So you have a lot more mobility now. You also have this thing where you can interact with your allies that also have the DNI, and you can have this tactical view to see, enemies around you and who's like shooting and stuff. You can see people through walls and grenades and stuff that they're throwing. You have a more visual on the battlefield thanks to everyone that's with you. In fact, you also have the ability to kind of like communicate with other people off comms or anything, just through your connected network of the DNIs. So you have that going as well. You also have these things called core abilities. And what these are kind of like your little your robot superpowers. You can do things like hack into enemy electronics. You can also shut down enemy electronics. You can make people explode. You can electrocute stuff. There's lots of different little things you can do with your abilities. And you also unlock more abilities and upgrade those abilities as you go along. Through the campaign, through these missions, because as you're going basically between missions, there'll be a little area you can go to use these unlock points that you've got by getting kills and doing objectives and whatnot, because you're leveling up while you're doing this as well. In fact, you can even play with up to 4 players in the campaign. Then you can do things like you can upgrade your weapons, change your loadouts, and do all of that to change different guns and getting different attachments and grenades and tactical things and what have you, to change your experience. Throughout the levels, there'll even be little boxes you can go to, little mobile armories that you can go in and actually in the middle of these missions can swap out your loadout to a different one that you've made, to the different custom loadouts you create. So you can use points for unlocking weapons and equipment and stuff, or you can use it to upgrade your core abilities for that. You also have the ability to do some little customizations and stuff on your weapons too to make them look cool if you want to do that. You give them paint jobs and stuff. That's also an option. And so there's some actual progression as you go through and leveling up and upgrading your weapons and other unlocks and things like that. Also within the levels there's some little collectibles you can get, because you can also customize your costume a bit, and you get new unlocks and points and things for not only doing certain objectives during the missions, but also finding these hidden collectibles within each mission. There's so many in each level, so the levels are more open-ended here, a little more not just as linear, so you can kind of attack them in different ways of how you're going to get around and deal with all the enemies and the things in each level. And I think that's pretty much all I can really say without giving away too much of the plot going on there. Basically, you're doing more of those missions and unraveling a plot that goes deeper than you probably expected it to go when you were first sent on your missions. That's the best I can give you without spoilers. So that's the story. There are also a number of cutscenes between these as well. You can be a dude or a lady, and that's if you cared about that. That's a thing you can select. That's mostly the campaign. None of the campaign stuff goes anywhere else, though. Basically, the 3 different modes, the campaign, the zombies, the online, they all have leveling progression, but they all do it separately. And also, there's an offline versus online progression system, so if you switch, there's that. So just be aware that not everything is going to carry over to other things. They're all kind of their own separate entities for this. So for the online, we go to there. This is a little more standard stuff that you can expect for Call of Duty Online, more or less, for a lot of the modes and things that you're doing. There are a few changes here, though. They do bring back the Pick 10 system here. One of the changes, though, is that they have this thing called specialists, where basically when you start off, you'll pick a specialist, and it's kind of like either a special... Essentially, you have a meter that fills up while you're doing these battles, and once the meter is full, it just kind of fills up over time. You'll get a temporary boost, whether it's a stat kind of boost thing, like a piece of equipment that you get for a temporary amount of time, or if it's a weapon that you get for a limited amount of time. It's one of those two. Each specialist has their own things that they do, so you can select which kind of specialist you want to be, and that can also be factored into the team composition and all that. That's another layer on top of this. There's also the mobility stuff, the wall running, the boost slide, and the little jet things when you're in your mid jump jet things. Those are all also part of this as well. So those are they incorporated into both the multiplayer level map designs and also just the general gameplay and the how that plays out. There's also a few new modes here. Uh, Might have to look at my note on what those are called. One of them is called Fracture, where basically you run around and shoot people, and when you kill them, they drop these little like diamond-looking techno diamond things. You pick those up, and there's like a point you have to go drop them into, basically. And this point that you drop it into moves around periodically throughout the match. Of course, if you have more of those in your possession and someone kills you, you drop all of those so they can pick all of those up. But also, you can deny the enemy from picking up your teammates' ones if you can pick them up first. And whoever has the most points at the end wins. There's Safeguard, which is basically like a team escort mission. There's a defenseless robot that just kind of like when you're near it, it'll start walking towards the checkpoint. So it can be damaged, and if the robot gets enough damage, it will have to reboot. It'll be unable to move for a little while. So the goal is to try and prevent people from getting them to the goal, or in sudden death, which I found happens most of the time. You have to actually go in and basically you both do it. Whoever does it like the fastest wins. Then there's also Uplink, which is more or less a single flag capture the flag variant. You have this like little like data thing that you're bringing to the Uplink station that spawns in the middle of the level, and you grab it, and it's almost like capture the flag with a basketball. So you have that, and when you are holding the data thing, the data sphere, you have extra armor, but you don't have any weapons. So all you can do is like run around, do your maneuvers and stuff, and try and get to the goal. The goal is like a floating area in the sky around in enemy territory, basically. If you can also throw the things. You can pass it to other people and stuff, and just throw it away. If you throw it into that goal, it's 1 point. If you go into it while touch the goal while you're still holding the thing, you get 2 points. So whoever has the most points wins.
We're here to extract you.
I think those are all the new modes I noticed that were new for this particular game. At least from the last Black Ops. I guess I can't speak for the whole series because I'm not playing all the ones in between these yet. And basically that, yeah. And otherwise, similar, again, pick 10 system is back. Similar level progression and stuff, just with the new weapons and items and stuff they have for this game. Also the other thing I will say that they have the ability to have bots in like all of the modes now. So it's not just select modes. Every online mode or whatever that you can do, you can set up custom games, and you can not only tweak a bunch of parameters there, but also you can set bots for any of them. So for example, gun game is now a thing you can just play and put bots into it and play whenever you want, even if it's just by yourself with computers. So for zombies, again, it's its own progression of stuff, because you actually do level up now in zombies as well. It's kind of similar here to other zombies. They are now all maps are survival mode. If there's any different like pieces of lore or objectives or things you can do in the maps, those are just things per map, rather than being a totally different mode. They're all still based around surviving waves of zombies until you die. And I believe there's only one new map here. I think I might just start with just one new map. And then, I don't know how many maps actually, like I say, I have the Zombie Chronicles edition. So, I don't know how many of these other maps are just here for the base game and how many are for that. This is where things are going to be kind of hard for me to tell. But they do have some old reworked maps from World at War. They have a bit from first Black Ops. I guess I don't know if anything is from Black Ops 2 or not. I have no idea. From what I could tell from the main stuff that I had, I don't believe any of those ones returned. But I don't know if any of the DLC ones are in there. And there's still also extra maps that I didn't have that were part of other DLC in there. And so they do have some of those with reworked maps for old ones that are using a more updated engine. They're adding in stuff like, they're adding in the new weapons, they're adding in some new abilities, maybe, perks and other things that didn't exist previously in those games, or at least in those maps. Primarily, Nox Zero and Toten, the first one from World at War. That map actually now has, like the new weapons, and it has, a Coca-Cola machine in there, so that's new. There's also a new thing in general that's been added here. The main thing is are called gobble gums, and gobble gums are they're like little gumballs that give you temporary power-ups. There's a select set of them that you get right away. and as you play more, you can unlock more to then swap out, because basically, like, everything, you have it's kind of like a loadout of like what could potentially come out of the machine. You can customize which ones have the potential to come out of the little gumball machine. They, you know, see another thing to spend points on when you're in game. And you also unlock more of those with, there's some kind of weird thing of like, there's a slot machine thing, because as you're leveling up, you get this stuff that you can spend in the slot machine to get that stuff as well. So there's that whole thing, and you can be able to craft new ones or power up old ones, make them even better. To be totally honest with you, I didn't play a ton of this zombies thing, because I checked out the maps and had some fun with it. But some of these maps do get pretty complex. The Shadows of Evil, like the new map that they have for this one, there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot I didn't quite figure out. And so I won't try to explain it to you of all the stuff there. There's also a weird thing where you turn into like a monster that does something. I think you need that to do something, but I don't know the lore or the strat or anything for that. So the general plot point is still the same, I guess. The general gameplay point is still the same, of just survive as long as you can until you can't. And then there's also a couple other modes to mention. There's some bonus modes that you can have as well. One of them is called Nightmares. Basically, it's the main campaign, but with a bunch of zombies in it instead of most of the regular enemies. So this tells an alternate story. Mostly it has overdubbing narration over on top of cutscenes to change the story to be stuff about a zombie outbreak instead. You don't have any customization for your character or progression. It just kind of goes for each level. You only have one gun, but zombies not only drop insta-kill and a new version of insta-kill that freezes all the zombies temporarily and max ammo, they also now will drop random guns sometimes as well. There's also the gun boxes show up where those mobile armories were in the main campaign. So it's pretty much just doing that over and over again. They just kind of replace regular enemy encounters with zombies spawning out of places and attacking you, and they're mostly just regular zombies, some exploding zombies, mostly that. You do have all of your abilities to wall climb and power slide and jet around, and it's clear that some of the times these zombies can't quite get to you. They weren't designed for these levels. They were an afterthought put into here as a bonus. So there will be times when you're in an area that zombies can't get you, and if they can't reach you for a certain amount of time, then there's two things that will start to happen. Because it was basically one of them is that if it's for too long or whatever, then when you start blowing up whatever, killing zombies, they'll spawn these homing bombs outside, like from their corpses, and they'll come towards you, forcing you to move. Other times they'll spawn in the zombie insect things, and they'll spit stuff at you. Again, trying to force you to move, because the place you are they don't want you to sit there and just kill everything without any resistance, is the idea, I guess. The other one is Free Run, which is kind of like just time trials in these parkour maps, seeing how fast you can go through here and do all the maneuvers of, wall running and shooting down stuff and platforming things. There's just a few maps of those competing for scores there. And then there's Dead Ops Arcade 2, which is the successor to Dead Ops Arcade from the first Black Ops. So it's a top-down twin-stick shooter. I didn't really talk about that during that, but it's kind of like it's supposed to simulate somewhat of an arcade game idea. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter. You can get a bunch of points. You can grab power-ups to different guns and shoot off waves of zombies. And when you're done in the area, you can go to the next, kind of pick your path around there as well. That's very similar to Smash TV, if you're familiar with that arcade game. The one new thing I noticed here is that there are these items you can grab that will switch it to a first-person view, and then it's kind of like playing almost like normal, but you have the super gun that just shoots forever and never has to reload while you're in first person fighting off these zombies. But other than that, it's more or less like that. I didn't totally beat this one. I only tried it a couple times, but it is also, again, it's one of those in the bonus modes. I didn't go crazy on the bonus modes. I'll admit I didn't finish the Nightmares mode either, to be fair. And I think that's all of the modes and things. So that's that's a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff in this game for sure. I think the campaign was probably the best of the content, personally. The campaign, I get it. Right now, I think I definitely get why people are saying what they have said about this game. But the campaign here is a little long, but I think it's interesting. It has some good voice acting, and the cutscenes I think are pretty good. and they kind of do those to split up the action, even if the missions are kind of long. I think that you're also pushed forward more by, while the sections might be a bit long, it doesn't really necessarily feel like it drags too much. There's a little times, maybe a few times, you're like, alright, I'd like this to be done now. But not too many. I think the new powers and stuff are really fun to mess around with. At first, they're a little bit like, I don't know about this. But once you start getting used to them, the ability to like climb up stuff so easily and jet around and having so much mobility, having the sight on all these different enemies, having these cool powers to tackle the terrain or the enemies and whatnot, I think are really, really cool. I think those help. I think a lot of that goes a long way to keep things interesting. Between that, the different gameplay style, the story, I think they really like keep things moving. I also think there's a couple of really cool things when you're, because you are fighting like robots and stuff too, which is neat. And I think that these like robots that are like just full on robots, are not like human at all. I think they do a good job of making those kind of scary too. There's a couple of sections, one like early on in that first mission where it's like you're trying to shoot a bunch of them off of your your vehicle. It gets like stalled out and you have to shoot a bunch of them off there. They start running out of like the darkness or whatever and start like trying to climb onto there. Like that's pretty cool. And there's also like a part where you're walking through like this like place and it's coming up from like under the water and like showing up under like from there. And it's like a horror thing there. That's really cool. So they do some pretty cool stuff with them. It's like to the effect of horror. I think there's definitely enough like going on here to keep things interesting between that stuff and also like the gameplay sections, the cutscene parts to kind of like see what's going on with some of the plot. And then also just being able to go back and like upgrade your stuff. Like cool, like what kind of upgrades do I have now? What kind of stuff can I do? It feels more like a regular kind of like a more modern type of campaign as opposed to the linear thing you were used to in Call of Duty. Even though the levels are still pretty linear, also the fact that they're more open, you can go in and tackle them in different ways. And so like maybe I'll go this way this time, maybe I'll go that way this time, or like it doesn't feel like I'm supposed to just go and like I'm supposed to be here, like I'm supposed to kill all these dudes. Like the way I want to tackle that situation is still up to me a lot more. I think it does a really good job of keeping that open and giving you options, even if there's some stuff they clearly expect you to do or things that will be easier for you to do if you choose to do them. And even swapping your loadout in the middle of the match is cool too. Like being able to be like, all right, like I'm in the middle of this level, and like I'm gonna swap this out. Like this part is gonna be in close quarters. I'm gonna pull out like this thing for that. And it's gonna be long range. I'm gonna get this stuff. You have like some more. It feels like you have a lot more agency here as like a player to like kind of customize yourself and build yourself up and do what you want to do. Versus some of the other Call of Duty games that are very like linear with like here's a little bit of like stuff you can kind of choose, but you're still mostly doing what they want you to do. I think it did a really good job. I think it was a good campaign. Online is also very fun. I do like that basically the ability to like jet around like that, the slides, the flying, wall running stuff. It's really cool. Especially with like that new mode of like the new capture the flag thing with uplink. That's very cool. I think that's a really cool way to do it. A cool spin on capture the flag that makes it pretty fun and engaging. I think also I think Fracture is cool, being, that's kind of like a mix of like a bit of like kill confirmed and capture the flag type of stuff almost. I think it's kind of neat. Neat ideas for modes to put in there. Bringing back the pick 10 system feels maybe a little less good here. It's still fine to keep it balanced. I think there's maybe something to be said about the specialists being like I want, if you have a team of people to play with, you can be like, you be this specialist and your abilities will synergize well with these other abilities, so we have this spread on our team and play like certain like almost like classes or something that way. I think there's another like layer of depth there. Even if I wasn't quite able to explore it at my very low level of play. But just the mobility and stuff was great. Like I think it's been like, especially for like closing the gap of like now campers can't just sit around like a sniper's like tower and shoot people, because people can actually jet up there and like get inside and like kill you a lot faster than having to walk up the stairs. Or you have a shotgun, you can close the gap a lot closer to people and a lot faster and get a shotgun blast to the face rather than being seen like a mile away and having nothing you can do other than just get shot. I think it definitely helps close some of the gaps there for close range, long range, the chasm there between them. But I think it's really cool. And other than that, it's still pretty solid regular online gameplay for Call of Duty. And zombies, I like that they have everything be survival mode again. I like that mode the most anyways, and I'm glad that they're like, you know what, yes, let's do survival mode. Let's make it easy and make the maps unique by each map, not by the survival mode thing. I like that. Like we're not going to change the actual core thing you're doing, we're just going to make the maps themselves shine with their other interesting features. And I like the reworked maps. I think that, Noxious Zero and Totem, I like that a lot in this version. I think that just in general, I tend to like the simpler maps anyways, but I think it's also very good that they have all of these maps in here right now. And again, it's the Zombie Chronicles version. This is where that's going to matter. But, like, having all those maps in there, like, I think that's a good, like, spread of, like, here's some smaller, simpler maps to play on. There's also some that are like a lot bigger and more complex with different things you can do, more bits of lore. So whether you're just going in here for some quick funsies or you're playing, with a bunch of friends, you're like, we're gonna do this all night. This is our game. We're playing through high school or something, right? Like, I think there's enough there. Or, like, I think it's a really good spread of zombies. It might be the best zombies package so far in any of these Call of Duty games. And I think Dead Ops Arcade 2 is fine. I don't think it's amazing or anything, but it's a fun little addition. I think it's a fun mode. I do like that. So for the downsides here, I guess we'll kind of mention those other bonus modes quick. Free run feels kind of pointless. I mean, I guess unless you're going to be a speedrunner looking at leaderboards, who cares? Oh, I can do this faster than my friends. Who cares? You play Call of Duty to shoot things, not to run around doing parkour. So, doing parkour while shooting things, fun. Doing just the parkour for no reason, not very fun. Also, the Nightmares mode, with just plopping zombies into the campaign, kind of sucks. It's annoying to have zombies spawn behind you, but it's saying, like, it feels like they can be unfair and spawn, come up from the ground behind you and, like, blindside you, and they slow you down a little bit when they hit you, so it's very easy for just a couple of zombies to quickly kill you because you can't run away, because when you get hit, you get slowed, which you don't do in the actual zombies mode, but you do in Nightmares mode. The story I couldn't give a shit about either, so it's not like that was, like, interesting to keep me there while they're, just putting, voiceovers over the cutscenes. Why not cut the cutscenes and just do, like, the narration, right? Like, you don't have to play all the cutscenes in the sequence, do you? Just very sloppily laid together this way. But anyways, the zombies can be unfair to you that way, and you only get one gun to try and pick up, other ammo from dead people, or, zombies drop guns, or hope you can find the next box or something. But then it's like, well, zombies can be kind of cheap to me by spawning behind me and slowing me down when they hit me. But then if I find a place where the zombies can't go, well, then I get punished for it by having homing bombs shot at me, or, the fucking, like, bug things show up or whatever. Like, that seems hardly fair. It's just, I don't know. The whole thing is very sloppy. It's very clear they just kind of... it's a bonus mode. They clearly just did it as an afterthought. I almost wish they hadn't, but I didn't finish it. But as far as I can find online, it doesn't look like there's any, like, special boss or anything to do that either. No real reward. So unless you're playing that with your friends as, like, another thing to do, it's probably not super fun. Definitely wasn't very fun by myself, in my experience. And I think, if anything, what they probably could have done is, at the very least, just cut it down to a few missions where having the zombies there was actually interesting. Like, the first mission they have you there, where you're in, like, the outside, and you're, like, a bunch of zombies are just kind of around, and then you start, like, making noise, and they notice you, and then there's, like, other stuff happening. That mission was fun. But a lot of it just kind of, it really, really drags when it's, like, a story I don't give a shit about, and it's there's no progression, and you're just doing the same thing over and over. Walk for a bit for the cutscene things that don't matter in this mode, and then the story thing is, like, obnoxious. So walk to the next section where they just plop zombies in again and rinse and repeat. And for the online is fine. I mean, I don't really have much for complaints there, other than specialists are a little silly. They're overpowered at worst, but just kind of whatever at best. And the pick 10 system, like I kind of mentioned, doesn't really feel like it fits here as well as it did before for some reason. I don't know. it feels a little bit like, oh well, is the balance really there in that, or does it do other stuff? Like, it feels like there's so many things to pick that picking 10 makes it really super limiting for some reason. This time it feels much more limited in that sense. Um,
Do you know what's happening to you?
I guess I should have mentioned the thing I really liked. You can do bots in any of those modes. That was really good. I didn't mention that as a good thing. But playing online stuff in general, it's kind of hard now because it's like, well, at least Zombies has the good courtesy to tell you, how many people are kind of playing each map. At least the percentage of people. They don't tell you how many people, but they tell you, there's this percent of people that are playing on this map when you're looking at them. Online, just pick a mode and hope that someone's there, I guess. I'm sure it was easy to get any game going when this was new, but Black Ops 3 is not new anymore. It's going to get harder. So basically I played Team Deathmatch, and that was mostly what I got to play. So it's a good thing you can still do that stuff with bots to check out the other modes. And also, like, Zombies is a little bit like I say, the complex stuff gets too complicated, and I don't care. I don't think I like grinding stuff. For my little gobble gum thing, it feels kind of like, I don't care. It's a neat little idea, but I don't care. And just it doesn't feel like it has a significant change to what you're doing most of the time. And it's a long grind to get it to be a significant change to that. And also, there's stuff that's like resetting daily and grinding that stuff up and getting more materials, along with stuff with online stuff with COD points and whatnot, for loot box type things there, and the general getting DLC packages for maps and modes and things. Those are all still out in the game, advertising, wanting you to spend real money on top of the money you already spent on the game, just throwing it out there in the menus, in the suggestions, hey, spend real money here, in-app purchases. It's pretty gross. I hate that shit, and I hate to see it. If you're gonna do that, do it. I guess for like the DLC stuff, I think you should do it in the store page. That stuff. Don't make it a thing that I can make it look like I can select a thing and then be like, hey, you have to buy this. I don't like that. And in-app purchase stuff, like, I don't know, the microtransaction shit, I don't really care for either. I'm not a fan of that. And unfortunately, it makes sense that it was hitting Call of Duty, but it's still unfortunate. It still sucks. I still don't like it here either. It feels kind of gross when they do shit like that, but that's kind of the way of everything, isn't it? It all just kind of ends up that way, doesn't it?
These assholes were packing. They got caught with their pants down, and they took it hard. Outcome? Train go boom.
I think overall, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is a very solid package. There's a lot of content here, but I will say that I totally understand why people feel the way they do about this. I was wrong in my my thought of like why they did it originally. And I think the real reason people are kind of like, Black Ops 3 is good, but it's because that the package is package is good. There's a lot of stuff here. I think that it's a very, very engaging campaign. It's very cool multiplayer stuff going on here. Lots of cool stuff with that, and also lots of zombie stuff to do. There's just lots of stuff, and the bonus stuff. There's lots of stuff to do, and it's all good, but it's all feels a little bit different. The campaign, especially, it feels more like a generic sci-fi shooter than it does a Call of Duty game. And the online with those extra bits there, with it still feels kind of like Call of Duty Online, but almost more like, again, like a game that's like basically inspired by Call of Duty. It's aping the controls, but it's not like, doesn't necessarily feel like the style of a Call of Duty game. And I think that because of that, with those two modes in particular, it's one of those where I can see this being appealing to basically two crowds of people. There's the people who are Call of Duty veterans who have been playing for a long time and want something a bit different. And as me binging these games like this in a row, I will say it was kind of refreshing to have this thing with like, oh, these cool powers and stuff, and like the upgrades between missions for unlocks and whatnot. Like this stuff is actually pretty cool. The different movement things are cool. I like this. This is interesting. It gives it a bit of a personality, a bit of an identity in the Call of Duty space. People like that will probably like this. Or people who look at most of these other Call of Duty games and think, I'm not really interested, I don't really care. They may look at this and be like, that looks okay, that's kind of neat, I like this one. I don't like the other Call of Duty games, but this has enough going for it for me to be like, yeah, cool, I like it. But those are the people I would recommend this to. I would absolutely not recommend this be your first Call of Duty game. No way. Because it's not indicative of the series. And I think that you probably are better off going for something else other than this. It's very much like an outlier in that sense. Being an outlier can be good and it can be bad. That's the double-edged sword of doing that. But it is interesting. And I do think that of all the ones I've played so far, this might be one of the closest to being worth its price. $60 is still a lot. I think 30 or 40 would be about where I would say to do this. And if you can find the physical, you can get it for less, probably. So keep that in mind. But it's a good package, and I'm glad I played it. I'm glad I checked it out. I think it's pretty cool. And if nothing else, I could see myself coming back to play the campaign because the campaign is cool. I mean, the zombie is pretty good too. Just that I would only play like 2 maps. So, yeah, basically the campaign. If you can do even bot matches for some of the online stuff, is fun to mess around with, and some of the zombies will be fun. I think it's one of those that'll probably at least retain its playability in the future because of these 3 things. But what do you guys think? Especially now that I'm on here, I'm done this, I've played it, I've experienced it. I'd like to know what you guys think of Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Did you think it was better or worse than Black Ops 2, or are you like me and you feel like it was just kind of different? It was like it wasn't like way better or way worse. It was just kind of different. Yeah, what are your highs? What do you think are like the best parts about this game, or the worst parts about this game? Do you think it's underrated, overrated? Do you think it is appropriately rated? I'm curious. And also, I think the next one is going to be very interesting because the next game is Black Ops 4, which apparently, much like the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions of this game, don't have any single-player stuff. It's all going to be online shit. So we'll see if there's even enough people even still playing Black Ops 4 to do that. If not, I'm going to be mad because I'm sure Black Ops 4 is still $60 too. I don't know why that would be cheaper. So that'll be fun for me to piss away my money and my time and my life. And still have to go to the bathroom because I didn't actually piss away my pee.
Train go boom.